Hey everybody, it's day 136 of Training Daily Excellence. My name is Brad Gieske, and today is the third installment of our Nutrition Week. We're talking about carbohydrates for you as soccer players. Stay tuned. Our next section here, we're going to talk about carbohydrate sources. Now, I'm going to clear up a little bit of misinformation. So you as a soccer player need carbohydrates. Do not try to go on a paleo diet as a soccer player. It will harm your performance for sure. You need carbohydrates, you need glycogen and glucose in order to facilitate high intensity exercise. And so this is a definite need for a soccer player, okay? Because when you're working at a high level of intensity and you need that for a sustained period of time, these carbohydrates are going to be your primary source of fuel for that, primary source of oxidative fuel, okay? So as we go into this, first I've got fruits. This is all good. If you can get non-GMO fruits, that's great, because think about it. If you're genetically modifying it, you're changing the DNA structure of the fruit. We don't know the consequences of that yet. We don't know how that interacts with our body, but we do know the natural fruit itself is going to react how it always has. It's going to be helpful for us. It's going to have a lot of vitamins, minerals, and you can actually tell the vitamin and sometimes mineral content of a food based on its texture and its color. So you can see riboflavin in these strawberries here because it's a bright red color. Okay, that doesn't apply for artificial food dyes. If something's artificially dyed, like you have fruit snacks, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's riboflavin in there. That just means that there's a food dye in there that's coloring it red. Same with Gatorades and Powerades, things like that. So next we have some fruit spread, so jam. This, although it's okay in small quantities and you can put it on your toast or whatnot, especially as a soccer player, you're always going to prefer the real fruit over the jam, because the jam is fruit with added sugar. Okay, so that extra sugar is okay for soccer players. We're going to burn that off. We're going to use that as energy. But over time, extra sugars in our body cause an inflammatory process, and it also hurts our response to insulin. And so that's where diabetes and those types of things come in. So it's something to keep in mind. Don't overload on sugar. Don't try to drink like 4 or 5 Gatorades a day, even though you'll be getting electrolytes from that. You're going to want to make sure that you're getting natural sugars, because the beautiful thing about fruits is that they have sugar in them, right? And that's okay. But they have fiber as well, and that fiber makes us full before we overconsume the sugar in fruits. Now, when we're consuming a sports beverage, that's not true. We don't have the fiber in the sports beverage, so we'll keep drinking that sugar. And so we could finish a 64 ounce, but we don't know that at the same time we're getting 18 grams of sugar for every 8 fluid ounces, or possibly even more. So most of these are balanced to about that ratio, but that's a lot of sugar, and so we just want to make sure that over time we're devoting ourselves to healthy practices. Now, don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying don't drink sports beverages, but don't overconsume sports beverages. Save that for right after your game, just to replenish your fluids, and then also get some electrolytes going back through you. So over here we've got some rice. Rice is going to be a great source for you. One thing to think about, the longer the grain of rice, typically the more fiber content that rice will have. And so I'm not too concerned on the brown rice versus the white rice. To me, it doesn't make too much of a difference. The brown rice sometimes is a little bit hard to digest. It takes a little bit longer because there's a little bit more of the actual plant still there. So just, yeah, again, get a non-GMO version and go for it. Yeah, so over here we have quinoa, toasted cereal, so just another grain, another awesome source you can get. This one's fair trade, and it's also certified gluten-free, so Fair trade just tells you that they worked with another culture, another community, somewhere in the world, and they pay them fair wages for their work. So that's something you want to consider, because you don't want to be getting a cheap product because it's at the expense of people in another country. So this may be more expensive, but you're also supporting those people in another country that don't otherwise have access to a job. And then also just quickly on the certified gluten-free. So I am allergic to gluten, so it's something that's kind of like the bad guy in the nutrition world right now. If it says certified gluten-free, it's gluten-free, you're good to go. It's less than 16 parts per million, so it's going to be good to go for you. If it says made without gluten ingredients, it may not be okay for you. That doesn't mean that it has less than 16 parts per million gluten. Okay, so those are considerations. Gluten, just briefly, is a protein that's found typically in wheat, rye, barley, and then some other grains. So just something to keep it in mind. So over here we have some tortilla chips. These are made from corn. Again, you're just going to want to see what ingredients are in there. You don't want to just eat your whole meal based on tortilla chips, but this is something that you can put into your game plan as well. There's going to be a lot of lipids in there because that's how they make it crispy, and lipids are good. They're fine. That's going to facilitate a lot of healthy processes in your body, and it's also going to be a source of energy when you've been running around for a long time at a lower intensity. And so that's not necessarily bad. Now over here, here's one thing that gets tricky. So, okay, so you see the big check mark says made with 3 ingredients. Sounds good, right? That sounds pretty natural. And then it says gluten-free by the next check mark. And then you flip it over to look at the ingredients. And right here, you'll see it does only have 3 ingredients, but it is produced with genetic engineering. Okay? What that basically means is they changed the DNA of the corn in order to make it bountiful and in order to make it take on other properties that it didn't naturally have in the first place. So again, that means that it's GMO. That means that it's genetically modified. So for me, that's a no-go. That's something that I'm not going to eat a lot of things like this because we don't know the results of genetically modified foods in our body. We know what the natural thing is. We know what that does to our body. We understand some of that, but we don't know yet the effects of genetically modifying our foods. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. I hope you all learned something new about carbohydrates for you as a soccer player. Check out our other videos on nutrition this week, and we'll see you tomorrow.